we're going to get into our 65-pound cardstock now. And this is not in the pre-cutting measurement guide, but I do want to do this together. This is 65 pound, and what we want to do is cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 1/4 inches by 8 1/2 inches. We're going to lay this on our scoring board so we are 8 1/2 inches across. At 4 1/4 inch, let's score. This is going to be our folder, and we will just turn that over and burnish that down. So now it's like we have a card base. Let's grab at this sheet in our paper pack. You'll see this particular piece on the back. It looks like this. I'm going to cut in and around this piece, but I'm just going to continue cutting to here, here, and here. In your reserves, you will find that long piece that's polka dotted. Looks like that. And also this piece. This is where we cut out this from. And this is going to work perfectly. It's a good scrap. So what we're going to do, I'm going to double these up because we're going to cut them the exact same way. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. So I'm going to show you how this is going to work. Even though we're going to have this in there, it gets covered up. So when we place this, we're going to center this top to bottom. We're going to apply glue. So let's do that. And you're going to want the side that is straight off to the left. If you cut it wrong, you can flip it over this way. So I'm just going to apply, and notice I'm leaving about the same amount of white border to the left. That is just personal taste for me. I think it makes it look very clean, and that's why I do that. Now I'm going to apply glue to this side, and this is a good way for you at the end of the tutorial, since we don't do all the picture mats and different things together. This will help you so you can kind of look at pieces that are left in your reserves and say, hey, I can do something with that. That isn't a waste. So I'm layering it over it, and now you can no longer see that there was anything over there. Now for this piece. This is absolutely gorgeous, and we're just going to set that right on top. So let's get our glue, and this is just a matter of layering how this looks, and I think this will look really good, and I hope I did it the right way. Yep, the opening is off to the right. If you did it the other way where your opening's to the left, it doesn't ruin or spoil your thing here. You're just going to have one that opens the other way. Okay, so now I'm just going to burnish this all down, and there we have a really pretty folder. So inside we can put photos. You can either put them portrait style or landscape. So this can actually just slip right on in here behind that little tab there and just sit in there. It looks pretty cool. And you can also put decorated paper inside that. So let's just do a picture mat, a random one. Let's just do a white cardstock. That's our 65 pound. Let's do a 4 inch by 5 1/2 inch. Okay, so we're 4 inch by 5 1/2 inch. And we have plenty of photos that we can crop, or we even have the smaller ones that are what? 3 1/2 by 5s. Let's grab this out of our reserves. It looks like this on the back. If you place it, you'll have a beautiful white border around, and then when you place your picture, you can either place it right on top of the decorated paper. Myself, I go smaller so that I'm triple matted, meaning I have a white frame, I have a frame of beautiful paper, and then I put my photo. And then sometimes I even put another white frame and then my photo. So it's all according to taste, what you want to do and what size photos. That's why I don't do picture mats at the very end because I have my own sizes, and I do different sizes on mine because I like to crop things, and you know, and sometimes you get those photo bombers in your pictures that it just kind of, it's funny. It really is funny, but you don't want them in a special moment sometimes. You just want your grandkids, or you just want, you know what I'm saying. So there is a picture mat, and if you notice in here, you can cram in probably, I would say, a good 20 or so in there. So I'm just going to stick that back behind. And so here is our page 1. We are complete. Now, as far as this, when I told you, and once you get more in there, it'll get, you'll be able to, it won't be shifting around as much on you in there. Since we put it all the way over to the side, when you turn this page, you should not be up and down. If you are, something went wrong. There is going to be a slight bump like that, but it should not be to where you're sitting like this, and you know, so you should be able to come over. All right, we are on page 2. And let's get our pre-cuts ready. Page 2. In your paper pack, you will find this beautiful print, and on the back, it looks like this. So to make sure we have the same cuts, we're going to look at it like this to where this is the side we're looking at. We're going to turn it like this. So now this piece is up at the top. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. This piece goes in our reserves. Now we're just going to measure over 6 inches and cut. This is what you should have. This sheet here is for our page 3. I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm not going to put it in my reserves so that I don't accidentally cut into it. On our pre-cutting sheet, we had prepared a piece of cardstock that was 2 inches by 9 inches. All we're going to do is lay this as a side pocket, and then we'll add our trim. So I'm going to lay a piece of score tape on the left-hand side, and we're going to want to burnish that down really good. We're going to be giving this a bend, and then we're going to lay that down. Get the backing off this. Now I'm going to turn this. It's easier for me to work with. So I'm going to give this a little bend, and we're going to make sure we have overhang on each side of our white cardstock from our page. And we'll just stick that there. And we'll burnish that down really good. We'll flip this over, and we will tack down our little flaps. So let's apply our glue and tack that down. If you are punching for trim, go ahead and punch your trim. Make sure you leave about 1/2 inch or so that you can attach on there, or 1/4 inch. And what you'll do if you're punching is you'll apply glue to the under part, and you will bring that right to the edge, and make sure that you have enough for flaps to go on either side. Die cutters. I am in a frame of card leafy borders, and what I did was I cut a piece of cardstock about 1.5 inches wide, and in the frame of card leafy borders you will find the largest plate, and all you're going to do is place this on your paper, and make sure you leave yourself a little bit of a white there, and you're going to run that through the die cutter, making sure you center this. Now once you do that, you're going to come in from the side, and then you're going to come up at an angle the best you can, and leave yourself a good little lip there. So I'm going to do that over here. Alright, so die cutters, what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to the white under here, and we will bring this all the way up to where you can see that it matches up, and we'll make sure this is centered. We'll glue it down and we'll wrap our little flaps around the back and tack those down. So we should all be at this point. Let's look in our reserves, and what we're going to find is a long piece like this. On the back it looks like this. Mine is approximately 8 1/4 inches long, and it's only about 1 3/8 inch wide. So I'm going to place this down at my edge, and I will measure to fit. So I will just make a pencil mark there and put this on your paper cutter, or if you're straight at cutting, you can do that. Not sure if I got, well, mine done right. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to glue that right on down. So let's do that. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. It's more writing. So what I'm going to do is, first off, I'm going to trim off the lavender strip here, and then I'm going to come and trim all the way down to release this border piece, and I'll show you what mine looks like. This is what mine looks like, and I'm going to measure a fit. So I'm going to bring that up to the top, and I might leave just a little bit of a white showing there, and I'm going to measure to fit. So I'll make my pencil mark, and I will cut. I'll put this back in my reserves. Now all I have to do is apply glue and glue that down. If you have leaves, let's apply glue and we'll glue that down. Make sure you put something back behind so it doesn't glue your piece down. And I've got this little flower. It's just a little 2-layer flower, and I'll stick that right here. Page 2 is complete. Let's flip that over. We're going to apply score tape to the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. And then we're going to mount this in our book together. Here is my page. I took the score tape backing off. I'm just going to move this over. Now for this one, we're just going to make sure our page here is 1/8 inch away from our hinge. So I'm just going to, and I'm going to try to center this top to bottom. It's not always easy without getting my head in the camera, but we're going to try. So that looks like it's about 1/8 inch, and I'm going to lay it. Now I'm just going to burnish that down really good. Page 2 is complete. We're now on to page 3. We're on page 3, and we set this piece off to the side. We're just going to flip it over. We will work with it with this side showing up. Let's go over our pre-cutting for this page. We had, for page 3, a 5 by 9 inch piece, and we labeled that side pocket. We also had a 6 by 8 piece, and we labeled that pocket fold out. We had laid this on our scoring board, so we were 6 inches across our board, and we just scored that at a 1/2 inch. The next piece that we cut was a 6 inch by 7 inch piece. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 7 inches across. We scored it a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch, and we labeled that top flip. Next, we cut a 6 1/4 inch by 8 1/2 inch. We labeled it folder. We've done it before on page 1. I showed you how to make one. We laid it so we were 8 1/2 across the board, and at 4 1/4 we scored. Our last piece that we did was a 6 by 6 piece, looks like, and we laid that on our scoring board, And what we did was we scored at 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch, and we labeled that bottom flip. The first piece that we want to get at is our side pocket, our 5 by 9. Now for this one, we're going to have a side pocket over here. Okay, let's lay our score tape, and I'm using my 1/4 inch. And we're going to lay this to the right of our page, and we'll burnish that down really good. We're going to mount our pocket now. So I'll release the score tape backing. Okay, I'm going to turn mine because it's easier. And I'm going to give it a little bend, making sure my sides have overhang. And I will place it and burnish it down. Now all we have to do is wrap our flaps over and glue them down. So let's do that. Alrighty. So we have that. Next, let's grab our 6 by 8 fold out, our pocket fold out. And it's not a pocket, but it does sit on top of the pocket, and that's why I labeled it that. And we'll fold on that score line. For this, I'm going to grab my 3/8 inch, and on that little lip there, I'm going to apply my score tape. And I'm going to put this on, and then I'm also going to do a trim here. And I'll show you die cutters what I'm using. So I'm just going to put this on. Now what you want to do, and I'm upside down, that's okay. My writing is anyway. So here is the opening. I'm going to pull this over here. Here is the score tape backing. I'm going to push that back behind. I'm going to make sure that I line up with the edge of my pocket there, the side of it. And I'm going to burnish that down really good. Okay, so I have that on there. I'm going to use the same die plate that I just used. So those of you that have that large die that I'm using will do the same thing we did before, about 1.5 or 1 3/4, whatever you like, inch wide by about 9 inches. Let's start with the die cutters. I did the same exact thing. I used the large bracket in the frame card leafy borders, and I die cut. Don't jump ahead because we're actually going to be laying this in just a moment this way. Those of you that are punching, you will do the same thing. Punch a strip. Don't glue it down yet. Let's find our paper. In your paper pack, you will find this print. What we're going to do, oh, and on the back it looks like this. What we're going to do is put this on our paper cutter, and over here, right at the edge of the line here, we're just going to cut all the way down, and I'll show you what mine looks like. This is the piece that we want. Oh, that's cute. All right, so what we're going to do is measure to fit. We're going to bring that all the way to the top, come down here, make a pencil mark there, and cut. I know it's a sin, but we are actually going to apply glue to this side. Now look at your trim and how wide you have over here. What we're going to do is place this down, and we'll probably leave about 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch from over here. And then what we're going to do is lay this down. And what you'll want to do is center, if you're die cutting, you will center that trim there. And the idea is we want to stay away from the hinge. So before you glue it down, take a look at what you got, and you can wiggle it over a little more so that there is a white border this side and right underneath your trim if you can see it. Okay, we definitely don't want to be right up on top of that. But I'm going to apply glue, and I'll glue that down. This is for you to place your photos, and you can journal. And then we're going to glue that down. And then we're going to find our piece that is going to fit over our white trim there. I've got my piece down and I've applied glue to the trim part. And also what you can do with this is just tuck things like a tag or anything or a photograph in there, what you want. Got that down, wrap that back behind. So now what you got is a little nook here. Let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find a very long, skinny strip that looks like this. On the back, it looks like this. So we're going to measure it for fit. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border over here so it's easier to see where that pocket starts. And I'm just going to lay that down. And my first cut is going to be this way. Next, I'm going to lay it back down, making sure I have that little white border there. And then what I can do is drag it down a little so I can see where the edge of that trim is. And then I'll just make a pencil mark. And I will trim down this way. Now this other little skinny piece that's left over, definitely keep that. Put that in your reserves. Once you have your strip, apply glue to this side and we'll glue that right on down. In your paper pack, you will have this gorgeous print, and on the back we have this. So we're just going to turn it so where we're looking at it like this. We're going to measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. Put the smaller piece in your reserves. Measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. And we will measure over again 5 7/8 inch. You should have a long skinny strip left over that goes in your reserves. We're going to double these up and cut these down a bit more, which will give us some more of our strips that are usable that we will be needing in this album. So double your pieces up, measure over 5 1/4 inch and cut. On this piece here, let's see. Oh, that's pretty. I like that. Let's apply glue to this side, and we're going to center that right inside of there, steering clear of our hinge, and we'll glue that down. Keep the other side handy. In your reserves, you should have this little cutting on the back. It looks like this. What we're going to do is, you see, you should still have some purple showing up here. We're going to, that width of purple here, we're just going to trim around this, leaving the same trim width all the way around. So let's do that. I'll show you mine if you don't understand. So now, as you can see, I tried to get my border of the purple even as possible. Look in your reserves for a piece of white cardstock. We are going to apply glue to this side, and we are going to place this down on white cardstock to give it a little more strength. Now when I place this down, I'm going to leave about a 1/16 of an inch of white border down at the bottom and here at the side. And now I'm just going to put this on my paper cutter and cut both ways, leaving that same amount of border. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is, we're at the bottom in the back, we're just going to put some glue along the bottom, and we're going to bring this down. And I'm not quite all the way down. I have about a 1/16 inch of my paper still showing. But I am going to center it side to side and just place that. So this becomes usable. If you want to put a photograph here and then put a picture mat in behind too, you can do that. Okay, let's close that up. The next one is this. And, gosh, that's so pretty. We're actually going to lay our glue on this side. And we'll just center that and glue that down and burnish it. So let's do that. I've got mine down. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. Let's cut out and around this piece right here. So I still have this piece attached and it's barely hanging on. If you cut yours off, that's fine. Just remember that these two were once attached. There are two sides to this. There is the darker purple, and at least on mine, there's one that's a little more vibrant than the other. The side that's vibrant is the one that I want. I am going to ink around the edges carefully on this. And against the purple, it doesn't totally look like a gold, but it does. So that's kind of an oxymoron, but you'll see if you do the same. Next, because I want this to stand out more against this, we're going to look in our reserves. If you have a small little cutting, what we're going to do is we'll apply glue and we will place this down, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch of a white border all the way around when we cut it out. Alright, because I like tucking, being able to tuck things behind, I'm just going to get the bottom of that. And I'm going to place this, and I'm not completely going down to the bottom, just a little bit of color there. So this is optional if you want to use this as a little tuck spot for another tag or perhaps a little photo or whatever, larger one. But you have that option, like I'm saying. Let's move on. We're going to be grabbing at our 6x6 bottom flip and 6x7 top flip. Let's start with the top flip. Let's fold on those score lines and burnish. Okay, so once you do that, notice you can push this down to make some spacing, and it should lay flat right now. So I am going to hook this on back behind, just like that. See? And this is the top flip part, and I'm going to glue this tab down, make sure that that's straight filling. Okay, so once you have this down, open this up and make sure you don't have any glue that had seeped out. The next one is the 6x6 bottom flip, and we're just going to do the same thing. So when I attach this though, the flip back here is going to go back behind. But what I'm really looking for right now is to make sure I'm matching up on my sides. So match it up on the sides of your top flip. And once you have it where it's supposed to be, pinch and hold. If you feel your paper slipping, realign it. And I like to keep my hand down on this so it doesn't get away from me. Okay, so here's your top flip, here is your bottom flip, and we will be getting into our magnets here in a moment. In your reserves, you will find this print. Has all the fun little tags and everything on it, and then it's this on the back. Okay, first thing we're going to do is see the lavender strip. Right here, we're just going to trim that right off. And I'll show you mine. For now, you can just stick this off to the side. Again, we're going to turn this upside down. We're going to measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. Keep this handy. We'll set that off to the side. Looking at your paper like this now, measure over 6 1/4 inches and cut. You should have gotten this piece off there. And we'll stick that off to the side. We're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to center that, giving us a little white border all the way around, and we're going to glue that down. Grab your 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 inch folder, and we're going to fold on that score line. Okay. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to measure over, I'd say 6 inches and cut. This piece here, we're going to apply glue to this side, and we're going to glue that down, and we'll center it. And our opening is to the right. So let's do that. Grab a couple magnets. We're actually going to, on this page, a total of 4, but we're going to open that up and come in maybe 3/4 of an inch, and we'll plant one right there. This piece here that we set off to the side, we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that down right on over that magnet, leaving ourselves a white border and away from our little hinge there. Once you have your piece down, grab the mate and let it find itself there. We're going to place a small dot of glue right in the center, and what we're going to do is just fold over and press, and then we're going to lift up. You're going to be able to see where that glue, that other magnet needs to place. So I'm going to put some glue in over there. And remember, for the magnets, glue on magnet goes to glue on paper. In your reserves, you should find this print. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to place it, and we'll have it over just enough to cover up that magnet, and we'll glue that down. It's going to be short down here, but that's okay. Just make sure you bring it up even with the top of this one. Grab your long trim that says lavender, and we're going to measure to fit. I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to glue that down, and what I'm going to do is make sure I bring it down even with this side. So let's do that. This piece, let's cut out and around it. I'm going to ink around my edges with my gold. I'm going to set this off to the side until I need that. We can close this right on up. It's time to cut our trim, and I am in my frame of card leafy borders for those of you. And the bracket I'm using is the one that if I was to place down here, I'd have just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch on each side left. So let's grab a piece of cardstock. And for this, when you do this, you're going to want to leave at least 1/4 of an inch away from the top when you do that. So let's do that. And those of you that are punching, you'll punch a strip as well. Die cutters. The same amount of space you have here, you're going to want to do over here. We'll cut down that way, and I'm going to go this way. I'm better at cutting to the right. And then we're going to come straight in. All right, everyone, at this point, what we're going to want to do is we're going to lay our piece down, and we're going to measure to fit. I have both my pencil marks there, and now I'm going to trim my piece so it's going to fit, and I'm going to glue that down. In your reserves, you should have this piece. On the back, it looks like this. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out and around this until I get across. So let's do that, and I'll show you mine. I'm going to put this back in reserves, and this is what yours should look like. We're going to match this up side to side, and we will trim to fit. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to bring this down and make sure I burnish it down. So let's do that. Your folder, your opening is off to the right, and what we're going to do is we're going to put about 1/2 inch of glue at the bottom so that we can still get things back behind. Now when you place this, you will bring it down. Make sure that the top of this does not overhang over the top of that. And I'm going to center this side to side. So I'll just bring it down and make sure I'm even there. I'm going to open this up and make sure that that's down really good. So now what we have is we have our flip, we have this, And what I want to get after, I had you set this to the side, is we're going to come cut in this way and cut this piece out. So let's do that. I'll put this back in reserves. I'm going to ink around the edges of this with my gold. Look in your reserves for a piece of your white cardstock, apply glue, and we're going to glue that down. And then we're going to cut around it, leaving about a 1/16 inch of white border. I'm going to apply glue to about a 1/2 inch behind this, and I'll center that. And I'm going to leave the top open in case I'd like to stick one of these in there. So let's finish up here. Make a bow with your ribbon, and I'll just cut my tails. I like to use hot glue for this. It's quick tacking, but be very careful. I'm just going to glue that right here. Okay, let's flip this up. Let's grab one of our magnets, and you will, from this point where it's open from your trim, if you did, you're going to come in about 3/4 of an inch, and we will set one of our magnets. In your reserves, you will find this. On the back, it looks like this. We want this piece. Also, you're going to find a purple piece, polka dot, on the back. It looks like this. So if you were to put these up, they're either exactly the same or just about. Mine is about a 1/16 inch longer on the purple one. I'm going to trim this so they are both the same as this. Once you've done that, the first one that we're going to apply glue to is this one. And I was going to place it like this and this. I really like that. Or I can go like that. So let's apply our glue, and we are going to place this. Now when you're placing this, leave yourself about a 1/16 or so or 1/8 inch, and try to center that top to bottom, getting it straight. I think mine's straight. Now we're going to apply glue to this side, and we're going to line that up with the purple and making sure we have the same amount of white showing that we do over here. And then I'm going to burnish this down, especially up here at the edge where that magnet's right underneath. And I think I want to go right here with this one. So I'm not going to back this. I'm just going to place some glue up here at the top and a little to the back side on this, just in case I want to slide something back behind there. And I'll do it at a slight angle, and that looks good. We're ready to set the other mate to that magnet. So let's grab our magnets. We'll place it down right up here. We'll place that dab of glue right in the center, and we'll make sure our sides are even, and we will press. And look, it stayed. Okay, down here in your reserves you will find this gorgeous print, and what we're going to do is lay this down, and we're going to try to center this side to side. So we're not going to cut into this frame at all, any of the pink, because remember, we need to be able to match up here. So I'm going to go right here, and then over here I got to leave the same amount. So now what I'm going to do is cut straight down. So this is what I have. Let's see, that's good. And now what I have to do is measure to fit as far as up and down, so to make it even. So I'm just going to place this, take a look, and I think I'm going to be cutting just right here to go across. I'll start there, and then I'll measure down here. So let's do that. So there is the top part that's going to fit, and then now here's the easy part. I'm just going to measure to fit this way. Put this on my paper cutter and trim. I'm going to apply glue to the back of this, unless you'd rather have yours like this. And I'm going to place my piece. I've got mine down, and you should be latching. Let's open it up and get our piece for down here. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. On the back, it looks like this. And I'm not sure if I'm looking at it the right way or not. I'm just going to look at it where the point is going down on these. Measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. All right. Measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut. Before you add your glue to this side, let's verify we fit without interfering with the scoring lines up above. And I have a good fit here. So I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to glue that down. So this is what we should be looking like here, with it open, shut, should snap shut for you. Page 3 is complete. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. Let's flip that over. We're going to use our 1/4 inch score tape all the way around like a picture frame, 1 down the middle, and we're going to go 2 on either side of that because this is so thick. Got my score tape on. We're going to place this together in the book. I've got the score tape backing off. So here is the rule of thumb. We're going to want to place this 1/8 inch in from that hinge here. So that you can see a little better, I think I'll just slide that right back behind, and hopefully I won't get my head in the way. The object of this is to line it up with the top of our decorative paper here and here, and come in about 1/8. So, without getting my head in the video. Good. Okay, got that down. I'm going to remove this now. And I'm going to open this up. Oops. And I'm going to burnish really good. Alrighty. Page 3 is complete. We are now going on to page 4. We're going to complete page 4 and 5 together because they are identical, and it'll save us time. So for page 4 and 5, we had cut a piece that was 4 inch by 7.5 inch. We labeled it pocket, and the same for page 5, 4 by 7.5, labeled pocket. Let's just set these off to the side, and we're going to find our paper. We are moving into paper pack number 2. In paper pack number 2, you will find this print, and on the back is the gorgeous little flowers. We're going to be using this side, so we're going to turn it. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Now we're going to measure to 6 inches and cut that right down the middle. This is our left side, and this is our right side. Let's grab our 1/4 inch score tape. We're going to line it at the bottom of each of the pages because we are going to be doing pockets. And we'll burnish that down really good. And I'm going to start with this side. And whatever we do here, we're going to be doing here. So let's remove the score tape. Let's give our pocket a little bend. Make sure we have overhang on each side. Line that up with the bottom. And we will tack our flaps around the back side. We're also going to do the same on this one. People who are using the paper punches, you'll want to punch 2 trim pieces. Die cutters. I am in the decorative pocket accents, and the one I want is this one. Let's die cut on 2 pieces. People who punched, you can lay your trim down now And if you have enough to wrap around to the other side, do so. Those of us that die cut with this, we don't have any flaps really to do. So when we lay ours, and you notice we have this because it's actually designed, this die, for a pocket. But we're going to use it as a trim because I'm in love with this. And when I add my glue, it goes down on the lower lip and it's going to go right at the edge of the top. And this is where I want to get a piece of scratch paper back behind here so I don't glue my pocket shut. Let's see. I think I got it there. So, and I'll burnish that down, making sure no glue seeped out the top. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. We all have this in our reserve. It's the other part of this. Measure over 6 inches and cut that in half. Now we're going to have to do a little measuring to fit here. So what I'm going to do is bring my piece up. And if you notice, and I'm going to pull it over, I am about a 1/16 inch too long. So I am going to trim to fit. And I will do the same on this one. And then I'm going to glue my pieces down. So let's do that. Before we add our stickles to this page, we're going to flip these over. We're going to add score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. In your reserves, you will find this, and on the back it looks like that. We're going to put this on our paper cutter, and we are going to cut straight across. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this little panel out. They're supposed to be attached, but we are going to detach them. So we want this one, and we want this one. So let's do that. This is not in the pre-cutting guide because this is extra to what I want to do. Cut 2 pieces of cardstock. That is 3.5 inches by 5 3/4 inch. We're going to lay it on our scoring board where we are 5 3/4 across at 2 7/8. Let's score. And then we're going to fold on those score lines. And we'll use our tool to burnish that down. Okay, so the openings, we'll just have them facing each other. Apply glue to the back of this, and we will center it in the white cardstock there, the front. And we will do the same on this one. And the opening is right here on this one. Let's open these up. Let's grab a couple magnets. On this one, since we are opening this way, let's start on this side. 3/4 inch in. Let's grab some paper. Okay, so these 2 pieces that were the other 2 cuttings from these, we're going to want these, so let's trim around these. It is a sin, like I said, to put glue on this side, but we want a place to journal. So we're going to apply glue to this side, and it's going to go over the magnet here. We're going to apply glue to this side, and it's going to go over the magnet on that side. In your reserves, you should have 2 identical pieces that look like this. On the back, they look like this. We're going to double these up, measure over 2 3/4 inch, and cut. Next, we will double them up, looking at them like this, measure over 3 3/8 inch, and cut. Stick these off to the side. What we're going to do is grab the mates to these. And we're going to do like we've done before on both of them. We're going to place a dab of glue in the center. We'll push it over to find our place. And then we'll put our glue down. Glue on magnet goes to glue on paper. We'll apply glue and we'll glue these down. And we'll do that on both of ours. Let's close these up and finish up here. On this one, again, our opening is there. We're just going to place about a 1/2 inch of glue at the bottom. And we're going to do this off at an angle, and you can overhang about 1/4 inch on that side. So once you have that down, let's burnish that down. That way you can still get things back behind for storage. We'll do the same with this, and we'll just place that at an angle. Okay, stickle time. What I'm going to do is accent some of my flowers showing. So I'm just dotting a little bit. You don't need a lot. Okay, and I think I'll do some down here. In here is just random, just putting some dots of my stickles. And it only takes a moment. And I think I will get that butterfly. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I'm going to also do some up here and over here. As soon as our page is dry, go ahead and stick them in your book. Remember, stay 1/8 of an inch away from your hinge. We are now on to page 6. We're on page 6. And page 7 is almost identical, but because we have several pieces to this, we're going to do them separately. So for page 6, what we had cut were 2 pieces of cardstock that were 5 1/4 inch by 7 inch. And we laid these on our scoring board. And what we did was we scored at 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. And we did the same for this, and we labeled them fold out. We also cut, for page 6, a 3 1/8 by 5 1/2 inch piece, and we called it pocket, and there was no scoring on that. Okay, so for this one, what I want you to do is grab this out of your reserves. And what we're going to do is, this should be about 6 inches wide for us. And if you're just a hair less, you're going to be just fine. So the first thing we want to do is right underneath this, we're going to cut right across. And I am going to show you what mine looks like. This piece here, just stick in your reserves. And I did want to show you on the other side, we had this pretty picture. But for this page, we'll be having to where it looks like this. Alright, let's turn it so we're looking at it like this. On this one, we're only going to measure over 7 inches, and we're going to cut to start. This piece we need. What we're going to do is stick this on our paper cutter, and we are going to trim off this long white piece. And I'll show you what mine looks like. What we're going to do is piggyback this over the other one. But first we need to know where 8 inches is. So we're just going to place our ruler here. And we see where 8 inches is. And we're going to slide this and to see where we're going to be and how much we have extra there. So once you have that in place, grab your pencil. And what we're going to do is just make a little pencil mark so we know where we need to be. Let's grab our score tape. And I think I'll grab my 3/8 inch. And I am going to lay a piece of score tape evenly just above that line there. And then I can double check myself. And I'm going to clip off any overhang, definitely. And I'm going to burnish this down really good. And if I can find my bone folder. We want something with a straight edge to get this on straight. So for me, I'm just going to stick that right there. And I'm going to bring this down to where it's supposed to be. It should be at 7 inches. And I'll make sure that the purple's this way. And when I line this up, that way I can keep straight when I place this down. Okay? So there is that little bit there that I am going to put some glue on. And we're just going to piggyback these. And I'll do mine. And I'll make sure that this is flat. Make sure I'm at the 8-inch mark. Make sure I lay this right. And I got mine down. So now I'm just going to burnish that really good. Okay, so yours should look like this, and it's okay if you can see some seam. So there is our base page, and I wouldn't worry about over here because we're going to grab a strip to lay down because it has more white than this over here has the purple. In your reserves you should have this piece, and we are going to cut off from here down. To separate this away, what we're looking for is this long purple trimming, and I'll show you what mine looks like. So this is all I need here, and I'm just going to place this all the way to the left, and you'll still be able to see a little bit of your white there, which is fine. And we're going to measure to fit for sure. All right. So I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to glue that down. So let's do that. There's our base page. Now, to cover up that seam, in your reserves you should have a long piece like this. And on the other side it looks like that. So I think I'm going to use this side, and I'm just going to bring it all the way to the inside there. And I'm going to measure to fit. And this is a good way, in case you got yourself on a little bit crooked, that you can try to correct it by hiding it. So I'm going to apply glue, and I'm in a toss-up, either this side or this side. And I think I'm going to go with the lighter side. So glue on this side. I'll bring it over, and I'll glue that down. Once you have it down, we're going to burnish that down. There. And I think that looks really good. All right. On your 6x6 fold-outs, we're going to have one, looking at one with the score marks off to the left, and we're just going to put left. On this one, what we're going to do is just turn it upside down, and we're going to write right, because we want the score lines off to the right on this one. We're going to start with the left-hand fold-out. So what we want to do is just fold on those score lines. Okay, so when you have that, you should have an inside score line and an outside score line. On the outside score line, I want you to pinch on it. Now what we're going to do is slide that back behind. And we're just going to center that right in the center, like so. And once you have it hooked on, pinch and hold that. And we're going to glue down that flap. Once you have that down, now you can push back so that you can fill a flat edge. We're going to work from the inside out. Make sure my glue's all down there. And we're going to find our paper for over here. In your reserves, you should find this piece. This piece is about 6 7/8 inch this way, and it's approximately 5 7/8 this way. So we're going to turn it so we are 6 7/8 inch. We're going to measure over to 6 3/4 inch and cut. So now we are 6 3/4 inch in height. Looking at it like this, right now, like I said, you should be about close to 5 7/8 right now. We're going to measure over to 4 3/8 inch and cut. Put the smaller piece in your reserves. Let's verify that if we were to place this, that we would have a white border around our piece, and we're still about 1/8 of an inch away from that outer score line there. Let's get our pocket, and that is a 3 1/8 by 5 1/2 inch. And I want my 1/4 inch score tape for this. And I'm going to place it at the bottom. And we're going to mount that pocket. I'll just give a little bend. Make sure you have flaps hanging over each side. And we will wrap those flaps around the back side and tack it down. This is what you should have. Okay, in your reserves, remember this, we put that in there on the back. It looks like this. We are going to measure to fit. We already have a little white lip up there. So I'm going to bring that to where we just can see a little bit of a white cardstock border. And there's not much trimming here, just about a sliver. So my first cut will be this way. Got mine cut. I'm going to place this down at the bottom. Now what I want to do is try to center this in the middle of my pocket. So I'm going to have to trim to fit on this. So I'm going to line it up at the bottom. And I think right about there. And if you're not completely even, that's okay. It'll still look good. We're going to measure to fit. So let's trim off the sides. Verify you are going to fit. All right, so those of you that are using the trim punches, go ahead and cut yourself, do your punching. You can lay your border down across, and then you can glue this on. Die cutters. I am in the Elegant Pocket Accents, and this piece right here we're going to die cut. And I also want those of you that did a trim punch, do a second one and then stick it with your page 7 stuff. Die cutters, we are going to get into this and this, and we're going to die cut. And you'll want to die cut 2. One is for this and one is for page 7. So let's do that. Die cutters, we're going to apply glue, and we are going to glue that down. And then we are going to take our piece, we're going to apply glue to the bottom half, and we are going to place this down, and then we will wrap our sides back behind. I think that looks gorgeous. We're ready to put this in here. We're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to place it. Remember, stay about 1/8 inch away from that outer score line there. And we'll center that top and bottom as best we can. So let's do that. I think that looks great. Let's grab our right side fold out, and we will fold on our score lines and use our burnishing tool to help us along. Here's our flap off to the right. You have an inside score line and an outside score line. We're pinching on the outside score line. Now what I want you to do is to fold that in. Now I want you to hook this over the top, just like that, making sure that you line up with your other one, like so. Once you have it in place, pinch and hold it. Flip it over, make sure it doesn't slip, and we're going to glue down our fold-out flaps. Okay, now we can bring it back and fold on that other score line, and then push it in, and we should fill flat, just like that. Before we get into the outside, let's finish up with placing our paper over here. We are going to need to place a magnet, so let's get one of those. And of course mine ran away. Here we go. So just for now, I just want one, and place that magnet. Let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find a very long piece. I believe it's about 12 inches. And width-wise, it's about 6 1/8 or so. So the first thing we want to do is turn it this way. We're going to measure over 6 3/4 inch and cut. Or 6 3/4 of an inch this way. Measure over 4 3/8 inch and cut. I always like to verify I'm going to fit before I place glue down, and we're going to center that top, bottom. Mine fits good. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to place that on our page. So let's do that. That looks beautiful. I really like that. Okay, so how this is going to work is this one's going to fold in and this one's going to come over. Let's grab that magnet and get that placed. We'll just stick it on top of the mate. Dab a little glue there. Now one thing about this is make sure your bottom page is flat. Bring it over the top. Press. And now let's place that magnet. Remember, glue on magnet goes to glue on paper. There. We're now able to get our paper on this side. In your reserves, you should have this piece as well as a piece of the purple with writing. And on the back it says lavender. We want that. Okay, for this, on the other side it looks like this. We're going to keep it the width. It's going to be short, and that is where our trim comes into play. So we're just going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 6 3/4 of an inch and cut. This piece as well. We're going to measure over 6 3/4 of an inch and cut. We're going to apply glue and we're going to place this over, making sure we are even top to bottom. And we're just going to give ourselves maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so of white border. Then we're going to grab this and we're just going to bring that over, leaving a little bit of a white border as well. And we're going to glue that down. I've got mine down. Make sure you're latching. Let's find our paper for here. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It is the one that's behind the cover. And I want us to have the same cuts, so we're going to turn it upside down. We're going to measure over 4 3/8 inch and cut. Now looking at it like this, measure over 6 3/4 inch and cut. Those of you that are using trim punches, you'll want to die cut or punch. This is 7 inches long, so yours should be 7 inches long and punch across. Then what you're going to do is lay this down. Glue that down. Then you will glue your paper on top. Unless you want to go with a white border like that. It's up to you. Die cutters. In your Elegant Pockets Accents, you're going to find this piece. And here are the pieces that we need. You're going to die cut twice. One is for our page 6 and one is for our page 7. We're going to apply glue to ours, and we're going to bring that over and center that. Then we're going to take this and we are going to center that and where the point's centered, and we are going to glue that down. Make sure that your point does not go over the edge. In your reserves, you will have this long piece. Let's cut out and around this one. If you're using the Seedless Preserves ink, you can ink around it, giving it more of a purpley color if you'd like. If you do not have this ink, you do not have to do this. You can use your gold. Okay, we're going to apply glue to that, and we're just going to stick that down right like that. If you're using leaves, grab some leaves and apply glue. Now, one thing that you can do on this, if you're using leaves, is when you glue this down, you might want to glue down the tip here, here, and up over here and here, and just leave a little bit open so you can tuck something if you want, maybe a little tag or something back behind there, if you wanted to. If not, just glue it all down. I've got some flowers. I'm going to glue this one down right here. I have this flower here. Glue that down. I'll glue that one right there. And then I can glue one right there. And if your flowers are popped up, you can put them down a little bit more. I'm going to add just one more flower. That's a darker one with the seedless preserves. I'm just going to stick it right there. In your reserves, you should have this piece. You can go ahead and detach this if yours isn't already. Let's cut out one of these butterflies, and I'm going to cut this one out. So all I'm going to do is just come in first off and just go around it. I'll put this back in reserves, and I'll cut around this as best I can. If you cannot get his antennas very well, that's okay. I'm going to ink around the edges with my gold on this. So let's finish up and cut around this. Apply glue and glue that down. Before I add my stickles to my butterfly, I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to apply my score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. Now, one thing I want to do to make sure is that I don't close this up after putting the stickles on. I want to prop this up until the stickles have dried. So for now, all I'm going to do is find something like a pencil or something. Whoops, that wasn't good. Like this, and prop it up and set it off to the side so those stickles can dry. Page 6 is complete. Let's move on to page 7. It is about identical to this. In your paper pack, you will find this print on the back. It looks like this. Measure over 6 inches and cut. Put the other side in reserve. What we're after is this print, which was the flip side of this. So we're just going to trim this to take that off, and we'll trim it where the white meets the purple. What I want you to do now is to trim. This is the top of this border. We've done it down here. We're going to trim between the white and the purple. I've got mine trim. Next thing we want to do is just measure over 8 inches and cut. This that you have here, what I want you to do is right here. Oh, I got glue on me. Right here, you see where the white meets the dark purple? We're going to trim. The piece we want is this. This piece, just stick in your reserves. We're going to just glue that right on top so it looks like a frame still. So let's just get that going there. Make sure you're putting glue on the right side, because on the other side there is the same looking thing. So make sure you're lining up and putting glue on the right side. So that was an easy fix to the problem there of the frame. This will be our base page. Our pre-cuts were the same as page 6, so let's go over. You should have an extra small little trim that we cut during page 6 and your bigger trim, or if you're punching, or if you're not using anything at all. But let's go over these to make sure we have what we need. We had 2 of these, and both of them were 5 1/4 inch by 7 inch. One we're going to label left, and one we're going to label right. And then we had our 3 1/8 by 5 1/2 inch, and we labeled that pocket. So the one that we want to work with is the one for the right, and we're going to have to turn it around because we want our scoring over here. So let's fold on those score lines. You have an inside score line and an outside score line. Fold on your outside one, and this is where you might want to grab your other piece. Mine's still drying. And what you're going to want to do is to try and get it the same when you hook this on. So try and make it so that they look the same. If you want to measure from the bottom till it hits, you can do that, or just eyeball it. I think mine's good there, around there. Once you have it, we're just going to pinch it, and we're going to apply glue and tack that down. All right, once you have it, you'll want to fold back on that other score line and then push until it is flat on the sides and even on your paper. We're going to start by finding our paper for the inside. In your reserves, you will find this that we've already been cutting on. And what we're going to do is make sure that we all have the same leftover pieces. Looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 6 3/4 inch and cut. Once you have that trim, we're going to turn it like this. We're going to measure over 4 3/8 inch and cut. Verify you are going to fit, and you should. Let's grab our pocket and our 1/4 inch score tape, and we'll place that at the bottom of our paper. And we're just going to mount this little side pocket just like we did on the previous page. Give ourselves a little bend there and place it. And burnish that down. And we're just going to wrap over our flaps and tack them down. In your reserves, you should have another one of these, and we are going to measure to fit. So I'm just going to bring this down to where there's a little bit of white there, and like the other one, all I needed to do was just trim that just a little bit. So let's do that. And we're going to do the same thing. Now if you prefer to have this side, use this side this time, or you can make it the same like we did before. And let's do something different on this one. Let's just place that down and try to get that bow centered in between as best we can. Make our pencil marks and trim. Those of you that did trim punch, lay your trim and glue this down. Die cutters, what we're going to do is apply glue, and again, I can't decide what I want, that or that. Oh my gosh, it is so hard. I'm going to go with this side up again. So I'm going to apply glue to this side, and I'm going to place it. Then I'm going to take my die cut, and I'm going to do the same thing, applying glue, and then wrapping my edges around the back. Once you have your piece and any die cuts or trim that you wanted to use, let's apply glue to this, and we are going to center that top to bottom, and we want to make sure we are at least 1/8 inch away from that hinge. So let's do that. Once you have your piece down, you can close it up. Let's grab the left side, fold on our score lines. Okay, you have an inside score line and an outside one. Pinch on the outside one and hook that around the back and line it up with your other one. And make sure they are even there. Once they are there, pinch and hold on to it. Make sure it doesn't get away from you. And let's get that glued down, that hinge. Once it's down, we'll fold back on that other score line, and we have it. Let's open that up and get a magnet. Let's come in about 3/4 inch or so, place that magnet, and find our paper for this side. drag this back out of your reserves. We're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 4 3/8 inch and cut. Before adding glue, verify that you're going to fit in there. And when you verify that, let's glue it down. Once you have it down, place the mate to that magnet down. Put a dollop of glue in the middle. And make sure your page is flat. Press. And mine decided to stay there. Okay, we can get our paper for this side now. In your reserves, you should find this print. On the back, it looks like this. What we're going to do is cut along that. And we'll make sure that the other side is cut off as well. So all we have is the frame side here and the frame side here. The next thing you're going to do is put this on your paper cutter and cut off this purple trim. And then what you're going to do is right underneath the lavender trim, we're going to cut straight across. And I'll show you mine. This will get us started. What we're going to do is lay this down, and we are going to be short over here, which is fine, because in your reserves you will find this 12-inch long piece off the cuttings from when we were cutting this. So we'll grab that too. Over here, you'll want to leave yourself a little bit of a white border. And down here, you're going to have to trim it a little more to fit. So I made my mark, and I am going to cut straight across. Once you verify that you are fitting, we're going to apply glue. And you know, this side is actually a nice side to use. And I think we're going to use this side rather than this side because we have places to journal and we have a place right here to plan a photo. So let's apply glue to that and glue that down, giving yourself about a 1/16 of an inch over here. Once you have that down, grab this and you'll leave yourself a 1/16 of an inch on this side of white cardstock. So we will just measure to fit, and then we'll glue that down. I think that looks pretty good, and then when we bring this over, it looks nice too. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, we have this leftover cutting here, that when we were cutting for these. This should be 6 3/4 inch long. You will also find this, and this should be about 6 3/4 inch long, the same as that. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to bring that down, giving yourself just a little bit of a white border over there. Then we're going to apply glue to this one, and we'll come over the top. Now, if you have your trim, you can place it the same way. Place your trim down first, and then place this over the top, or if you're going on the outside. Once you have those down, die cutters, before you place yours, everyone, let's cut out and around. We have this in reserves, and we want to cut out and around this one. So let's do that. These two, we're just going to stick back in our reserves. If you use the seedless preserves to ink around the other one, you'll do this one as well. Or if you used your gold, you'll do that as well. So if you trim punched, or you're not using any dies or anything at all, once yours are glued down, you'll take this and center it in the center. Die cutters, what you're going to want to do first is place this over to the left once you get yours glued down. Place it down and then place your piece exactly how you had it on the other one. So you may have to maneuver yours a little bit more. And then we're going to glue that down. Okay, leaves. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. And I think I'm going to chop off, though, the little squiggly right there. And I'll place this kind of like how I had it before. And I'll do the same thing. One there, a couple here, and there. Okay, I had to make a new flower. I lost one of mine somewhere. All right, let's cut out and around this butterfly. This is in our reserves. The back side looks like this. We'll fussy cut around that. And what we'll do is we'll flip this over, put our score tape on it, and then we're going to be placing our butterfly up front. And then we'll put the stickles on it. So I will show you mine as soon as I'm done cutting it out. Don't forget to ink around the edges there. So I'm going to apply my glue. Oh, decisions, decisions. Right here. And then of course we'll go over it with our stickles. And that looks pretty darn good. All right, page 7 is complete. I think it looks very nice. I've got mine in the book, and I wanted to just kind of show you this. Let's move on to page 8. Let's go over our pre-cuts for page 8. We cut 4 pieces of cardstock that were 4 5/8 by 6 1/8. We labeled them foldouts. We placed each one on our scoring board, so we were 4 5/8 across, and we scored each one at a 1/2 inch on all of these. And we had 2 pieces that we cut that were 2 3/4 by 6 inch. We labeled them bands. We laid them on our scoring board, so we were 6 inches across our board, and we scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. And we did that for both of these. Let's find our base decorative paper, and I wanted to use this one. In your paper pack, you'll find it. On the back side, it's that gorgeous polka dots. So we're going to turn it so our trim is over on this side. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Now we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. This is what you should have. We're going to stick this off to the side, and we're not going to put it in our reserves, just stick it somewhere handy. That's our page 9. And we'll push that off to the side. And on our foldouts, all we're going to do is lay them down, and we are going to fold on each one and use our burnishing tool really good on each one of these. So let's do that. Let's grab our 3/8 inch score tape. And on these, I have my peak up and my little flap. I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to have my flap over to the right. We're going to lay one piece of score tape right on that little flap there, and we will inspect it to make sure no score tape is peeking over the edges. And then we're going to burnish it down. So let's get ready and do each one of our pieces like that. We're ready to start installing our little foldouts. It's kind of like a waterfall, a side waterfall. Let's get our ruler, and we are going to measure 4 1/4 inches in from the right up, and we're going to place a pencil mark there at 4 1/4 inches from this side over. It's going to be just like how we laid our pages in our book. So I'm going to do the first one, and I'm just going to fold this back behind, and I'm going to come right to the pencil mark, and what I'm going to do is press right up here. Now I can maneuver this by looking over here to be straight. And I think that's about straight right there. And I'm going to press. That's setting my first one. And then I'm going to burnish that down really good. So that should be straight. As straight as I can anyway. So once you burnish the inside, I want you to come and burnish the outside. Let's lay our next one. This is easy. Here's the sticky side. All we're going to do now is butt that right on up next to it, making sure I'm even. And I'll press. I'll burnish that down, and I'll burnish it on the outside. Let's place our next one, lining it up and press it down. Burnish there, and I'm going to burnish down up here really good. Let's place our last one, and we're just going to move that right on up, and I'll burnish that down, and I'll burnish it down here. That's all there is to that. Now we'll do the bands after we get our paper on here. So let's find our paper. In your reserves, let's pull this back out, measure over 6 inches, and cut. This should be, both of these, 4 by 6. So on this first one, we're going to apply glue, and we'll have the polka dots up, and that will give us a little bit of a white border down. Once you have that glued down, look in your reserves for this piece. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to cut out and around to get that purple border off. I've got mine cut. This is glued down. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to glue that right down center. I think that looks really good. Okay, so what we're going to do is, you see your next white page and then the other, we're going to alternate. And we're going to stick this piece right here. So let's glue that down. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. Measure over 4 inches and cut. Now measure over 6 inches and cut. These two pieces go here. One's going to get glued down here, and the other one gets glued down right here. Now, because we're conserving on paper, we're not going to place any here. What we're going to put is our journaling cards. So what we're going to want to do is, you have this in your reserves, but we're not going to use this one. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. So what I want us to do is, when we put this on our paper cutter, I want you to cut halfway in between that purple, so you still have a purple border. So right between here, and I'll show you what my first cut looks like. So my first cut, as you can see, this still has a little purple, and this does too. So let's start with this. The same amount of border you have here, you're going to want to cut all the way down to leave that amount. And then you're going to cut in between each one of these, halfway in between, to get the same amount of border. So let's do that. So this is what mine look like. I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to apply glue to this side, and I'm going to glue that right on down. My next one, I'll grab this one. And if you have any pencil marks or anything, definitely erase them. I'll apply glue. Now, another thing you can do is, if you want to journal down here, you can always just place this here. So on this one, I'm actually going to have the more decorative side showing up. And I can always journal above or below. And I'm going to try to match it up with what I got going over there for size as best I can, as where the placement should be. Okay. So now I'm going to turn that. Looks like I got a little glue or something going on down there. I'll have to fix that. This next one, I'm going to apply glue to this side, and I'm going to glue that down. I'm going to grab this back out of my reserves, and I'm going to go right in between these two to get at these. And then I'll trim around them like I did on those. I'm going to flip that. Now I can put a picture right here. So I think on this last one, I'm going to use this one. And I think I'll move it this way, and I'm going to glue that down. Okay, so we have this, and for these I'm just going to stick in my reserves. Let's grab our bands. And all I'm going to do is fold on the score lines on each one of them to get them ready. Okay, so you have a bottom, here's my flap, bottom score line and a top one. On that top one, and make sure I'm burnished down really good, pinch on that top one. We're just going to come, let's go from the bottom first. Pinch on the bottom one and try to center that side to side as best you can. Right about there I think I'm going to go. I'm going to pinch and hold it, and I'm going to glue that down. Now I'm just going to push up on that, and I should have a nice little band there. Let's get the other one, and looking at this the same way, bottom score line, top score line. On the top one, let's pinch. And this is where you might want to give these just a little bit of a bend to help you out. So we're just going to hook that on, make sure it comes over the top of the other, and most importantly, make sure that you were even on the sides. And I think I'm even right there. Pinch and hold it. If you feel it slip, definitely realign it. And when you're after using your glue, definitely check it in case you have to re-maneuver it. So I'm going to take a look. I think mine is fine. I'm going to push back on that score line and right like that. Okay, let's first get one of our magnets. So here's the top of our page. And really quick, let's just flip this over and apply our score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. Got my score tape on there. I'm going to flip up this top one, and I'm going to come in about 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 inch, and place it. And I'm going to find my paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. Turn it upside down, measure over 2.5 inches, and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we will center that side to side and glue that down. Remember when placing your thing to steer clear of that score line. So let's place the mate there and get this, get this where it needs to go. One thing is you might want to give this a little bit of a bend towards you, and this one, give a little bend up, just like that, so it has room. And then bring this over on top of it. Make sure that you have this pressed down your paper and press. Then let's place this magnet. Okay, let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you'll find the other side to this that you chopped off. It looks like that. And then you'll also find another skinny little piece like this. And we are going to make sure that these are both the same. So I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to trim across. The first one I'm going to glue down is this one. But first you need to look to see where it needs to be placed so that you can get even amount of sides, just like up there. And I think that's about 1/8 of an inch away from each side. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, let's try it. And you should snap shut. Alright, in your reserves you will find this piece. And I have mine because we cut out on a round, and I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to measure to fit though. I'm going to place this down, and on the back it looks like that. I'm going to give myself probably about 1/8 of an inch of white showing up there. And here's the bottom of my white cardstock. and I'll do the same. So now I'm going to trim. Okay, I'm going to apply glue to this side, and I'm going to place this. If you have some leaves, that is where it is going to place. And I have one of these, and I'm just going to, let's see, how do I want to place that? I'm just going to chop off half of this. I'm going to apply glue like this to bring it down in the corner. And then I'm going to place a flower right on there. And that will look good. I'm going to grab one more flower here. And it's going to be a lighter purple one. And I'm just going to position that right there. There we go. And I think that looks good. If you're not using leaves, what you can do at the end of the tutorial is just cut a triangle off and place it there, and it won't look bad. Alrighty, this page is just about complete. We have one more place to find some paper. So let's do that. In your reserves, you should have this piece on the back. It looks like this. We're going to look at it like this, measure over 5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Let's just turn that over. Measure over 2.5 inches and cut. Apply glue and glue that down, centering it top to bottom. Page 8 is complete. Now one thing you may want to do, and I'm going to do, is take my stickles and I'm going to place some stickles right here. I'll let that dry, and then I'll put some dots of it in the middle of these little flowers up here. Once this dries, I will place this in my book. We're now on to page 9. Page 9, let's grab this. We set this off to the side. In your reserves, you will also find this. We're going to cut out and around. We're going to eliminate the handle, otherwise it won't fit right. And we're going to cut out, come up this way, up and around. We're going to stop here, and then we're going to continue so it's all one piece. Then come down and underneath, and I'm going to show you what mine looks like. So I want to show you mine before you do this. But when you start, come in right where the flowers are, and then you're going to cut straight up and around. As you can see, this is what I have left. You'll come and just do the best you can, and you don't have to get real detailed, because we are going to be putting this on white cardstock, and we are going to cut out and around. Now also what I did was, when I got down here, I came to about here, and then I did not cut in for this part. I came out and around and then underneath them. So I had all this left, and I'm going to stick this in my reserves. Let's get a piece of cardstock, and you're going to want your 110 pound if you have it, or if you're working with 80 pound or 85 pound, and even 65 pound is fine for this. I'm going with the 110 pound. So I'm going to glue this down, and then I'm going to cut out and around this, leaving just a smidgen, little bit of white border. And I'll show you mine when I'm done. I've got mine all cut out. This page is very simple. And before we get started, let's apply score tape to the outside like a picture frame. One down the middle, one on either side. Got my score tape down. It's time. So this is actually going to be our pocket. I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit of a bend. And I'm going to use glue for this. So what I want to do is glue down some key points. The first one is up here, just enough. That is back behind, just a little bit. Okay. The next place I want to put it is right here along the bottom here. And I'm going to go straight across. I'll come up just a little bit there. And that's good enough. So I'm going to bring this over to the right. So it's like this. And now I'm going to burnish this down. And that should give you a little bit of a pocket in there. let's check it out. Should be able to slide back behind. Now, if you don't want glue all the way up that far, you can wipe off some of your glue. To about there, I'd say. There we go. And then a nice little pocket. Perfect. All right, let's get our little stickles out. Wipe up any glue that seeps out. And with this, I'm just going to kind of do my dots like I do. It kind of looks good for this. Okay, I'll put a dot in the middle of each one of these. I'll put a dot here, and I'll just put a little bit of red. Put some in the center here, and maybe fill in a little here and there. I think that looks really good. That's really pretty. Page 9 is complete. As soon as your stickles dry, let's mount that in our book. We're now on to page 10. We're going to complete page 10 and 11 together because they are identical. They're the pocket pages. So for page 10 and 11, we had cut a 4-inch by 7.5-inch piece of cardstock and we labeled it pocket. And we did the same for page 11. Let's set those off to the side and let's get into our paper pack. In our paper pack, we will find this gorgeous print, and on the back side, it looks like this. And we're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. Alrighty, let's double these up. Measure over 8 inches and cut. So we're just mounting our pockets here. And what I've done is I've ran score tape down the bottom and I attached my pocket. I wrapped my flaps and I'm going to tack that down. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Give my pocket a little bit of a bend. Make sure I have overhang. Wrap the flaps and tack it down. If you are using the trim punch 2 pieces, lay your trim down and make sure you do it long enough so you can wrap around the back. Those of us that are die cutting, once you get done with that, putting that down, you're going to measure to fit. Chop off any excess, about 1/16 of an inch I'm guessing, and you'll be gluing down yours. Die cutters. Die cutters, you can cut 2 pieces that are 2 1/4 inch by 7.5 inch. I'm in the petite pockets and I'm after this bracket. I am not going to be using these. It's just the bracket. And on each one of these, what you're going to want to do is center it side to side and run these through your die cutting machines. Die cutters, once you bring this out of your machine, what you're going to want to do is cut straight in to match up, and we're going to cut straight over to that. And we'll do the same on this side. Alright, die cutters, what we're going to do is measure to fit. So I'm going to place this down, leave myself a little bit of white border up there. And I am going to make a pencil mark down here. And I'll do the same with this one and cut. Let's apply glue and glue our pieces down. Okay, die cutters, what we're going to do is flip our piece over. We'll put glue on that little tab. We'll run it all the way, some glue across here. And we'll get glue down in here. And then we will match up where the dots hit the top of our trim, side to side, and then we'll glue that down and wrap our flaps. In our reserves, we have this piece, the little tags. We're going to cut out and around this tag. We're going to ink around the edges with our gold, and we're going to get some white cardstock. Grab a piece of scrap cardstock if you have it. If not, cut a sliver off. What we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to this, and we're going to place it down on our white cardstock, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving just a little bit of a white border. Mine is done there. What we're going to do here is on the back side of this, over here, we'll come up about this far and then glue over. So, just like that. And we will hang it off the page just a little bit. Okay, for this, I'm going to grab some of my leaves, if I can find my one leaf that I've already cut into. Here we go. And I think I will just cut like this. Stick that there. And I just made a bunch of new little flowers. So they may still need some time. I'm going to stick this one here. And it's a very dark seedless preserves. And I think I want to take one of my ones like this. And I'll stick that right there. And call that good. Alrighty. Once you get your flowers down, these pages are complete. We're going to flip them over, apply our score tape around the back like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side, and mount that in our book. My pages are in. We are now on to page 12 and 13.